Everybody is well. So thank you for coming. In the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you 5 ways to solve your IRS problem. Everybody is well. So thank you for coming. In the next 20 minutes, cover what I'm going to show you 5 ways to solve this problem. So, and what you can do to get rid of Big Brother, you will learn the 5 most common ways to resolve your tax debt. You're going to discover solutions so you can sleep well at night, how to no longer look over your shoulder, and how not to be intimidated by the IRS. You're going to learn that there's a solution for every problem. If you're sleeping on the couch right now, you'll be invited back to the bedroom, and you'll be able to sleep well at night. You're going to know that there is a solution so you can sleep well at night. You'll even feel safe going to the mailbox. You can get your life back. You'll learn how to put the IRS in the rear view, no longer having to lay awake at night stressing about your tax problems. Like our client Liz, who spent 3 years agonizing about tax problems before contacting us. And then she learned there's a solution to every problem. And I'm happy to say that Liz's problems are in the rearview mirror. You'll discover there's a way out and that you can get your life back, how to keep your bank account and avoid having your passport revoked. Here's how we're going to do that. Here are the 5 ways to settle your tax debt. So the first way is an offer and compromise. An offer and compromise, also known as OIC, is a legally binding written agreement between the taxpayer and us that settles the taxpayer's tax liabilities for less than the full amount owed, many times for a fraction of what's owed. It's done via Form 433A OIC and Form 656. To qualify, it's a formula-driven process that must meet certain standards. For example, all returns must be filed and current with all filings. You will need to complete a full financial disclosure, and there are some pretty strict requirements. For example, the amount the IRS will settle for is based on your RCP, which is known as your reasonable collection potential. Your reasonable collection potential is related to the amount that the IRS could acquire from you within 2 years, based on your asset picture, income, and general financial situation. The IRS will investigate your offer thoroughly by going through your financial statements. If it appears as though you could reasonably pay off your debts given time, the IRS is likely to reject your offer. If it seems as though the offer covers the amount that you could be expected to pay without undue hardship, then the IRS may approve it. A significant amount goes into the asset verification from the IRS. These are only a few things that the IRS will look into when verifying your financial situation. The process of negotiating for a settlement is very involved, and an expert can help. After your offer, there will still be some things that you need to do. You'll need to keep your debts paid and your returns filed for the next 5 years. Also, your next year's refund will be kept. Here's an example of how that works. Let me tell you about Mary. Mary owed $65,000 because she was under withholding on W-4 that she submitted to her employer because she had a special needs child. Mary could not sleep at night because she was worried about losing her home and not being able to provide for her child. She and her husband were fighting because he did not know about this tax liability until recently. But the fortunate thing is that Mary came to Peace of Mind Tax Help. Here's how Mary actually solved her problem. She met the qualification, and whether you meet the qualifications is something we would have to discussed, but ultimately we settled with the IRS for $8,200. Next item is a payment plan, also known as an installment agreement. This is an agreement between the taxpayer and the IRS that fully pays the tax liability over time, generally over 72 months. It's very similar to a loan repayment plan. To enter into a payment plan, all returns need to be filed in current. If you owe more than $100,000, a full financial disclosure will be required to qualify for a payment plan. Let me tell you a story. Jim owed $57,000, and his spouse was really upset and worried that their bank account was going to be seized. Our client was afraid that his spouse was going to take the kids and leave. We were able to create a payment plan for them, so it restored their financial situation for the household and the marriage too. The third way is a partial pay installment agreement, which I like to refer to as the offering compromise or the backdoor offering compromise. A partial pay installment agreement is an agreement between the taxpayer and the IRS that partially pays back the liability owed. It is determined by what the taxpayer can afford over the remaining life of the collection statute expiration date, or CSED, which is generally 10 years. Now, what's interesting about a partial pay installment agreement is that in most cases, the IRS is not concerned with looking towards the net equity in assets to determine what the monthly payment amount is, especially if the case is with the IRS and ACS, also known as the Automated Collection System. And it could be a lot more beneficial than an offering compromise because the IRS is only interested in collecting the monthly disposable income over the remaining life of the 10-year collection statute expiration date and not assets. So let me tell you about Kyle. Kyle owned 2 restaurants here in Vegas and owed $92,000 in back taxes to the IRS. Then the pandemic hit and he lost everything, including the 2 restaurants. He had 2 years remaining on his back taxes and could only afford to pay the IRS $289 a month. We were able to get Kyle into an agreement with the IRS that partially pays back the liability owed at the rate of $289 a month for the last 2 years that were remaining until his collection statute expiration date. This saved Kyle over $85,000 in tax. Nowadays, he has a clean slate and was recently able to reopen one of his restaurants, which is a very good thing because I missed eating at his restaurant. The status of currently non-collectible doesn't eliminate the tax debt, but it does stop the IRS from making collection attempts. To get listed as currently not collectible, you need to meet fairly strict criteria. Repayment of the debt must render you unable to meet necessary living expenses. Basically, if you have negligible assets and no income beyond what is required to live, you may be eligible. So it's difficult to be listed as currently not collectible unless you are on a limited income that is fully utilized for your necessary living expenses. You need to provide full documentation for your financial situation, temporary determination. Generally, you'll be reviewed annually with the IRS to see if your status has changed. In other words, your financial status. Thus, this could be a temporary band-aid unless the taxpayer is elderly and on a fixed income. Then it's a very good permanent way to settle the tax debt. However, I've also used the CNC option as a stepping stone to an offering compromise or a partial pay installment agreement. With CNC, the taxpayer must demonstrate that financial hardship is not required to make any monthly payments towards the debt. Penalties and interest continue to accrue, however, and the 10-year statute of limitations continues to run as well. For example, Edith and Joe, a retired couple in their late 80s, called us in a panic, fearful that the IRS would seize their house. They both live on a small fixed income of Social Security, and Joe is not in good health. We were able to get them both into currently not collectible status, saving their home and giving them the peace of mind that they can sleep at night, and have eliminated Edith's panic attacks as well. The last way to resolve your tax problem is with a penalty abatement request. With a penalty abatement, the IRS agrees to remove or reduce penalties assessed against the taxpayer based on first-time penalty abatement or reasonable cause criteria. So we can either do a first-time penalty abatement, or we can do a written formal penalty abatement request based on reasonable cause and ordinary business care and prudence. So with the first-time penalty abatement, the IRS will remove penalties for the earliest year, but there are certain requirements that need to be present. One of the requirements is that for the prior 3 years, there could not have been any failure to file or failure to pay penalties assessed against you, and all of your returns have been filed by the tax deadline or extended tax deadline. For reasonable cause, the IRS has a reasonable cause argument that you can use to abate penalties under. The main thing is whatever the event that gave rise has to coincide with the period that you want to abate a penalty for. The IRS doesn't consider a lack of funds a reasonable cause for failure to pay on time, but it does consider the reasons for the lack of funds as part of the application for a penalty abatement. So those reasonable causes considered by the IRS for the penalty abatement include things like natural disasters, calamities, and other unexpected events, inability to obtain records through no fault of the taxpayer, serious illness, death, becoming incapacitated, or an unavoidable absence of the taxpayer or immediate family member, or any other reason that demonstrates the taxpayer was unable to meet their tax obligation despite due diligence to do otherwise. Our client, Robert, lost his wife, Ashley, due to COVID. They're both in their 30s, and to say that her death, was unexpected would be a great understatement. Not only was Robert left with the grief and sudden loss of his wife, he was also left with a significant financial debt and hospital bills. And due to the depression he was facing in his grief, he missed the tax filing deadline and didn't pay any quarterly taxes for his self-employment, his consulting firm. So the IRS assessed him $23,000 in penalties. But due to the sudden and unexpected death of his wife, we were able to prepare an incredibly strong reasonable cause abatement request, and were able to remove the $23,000 in penalties, saving him $23,000. So these, my friends, are the 5 most common ways to settle your IRS tax debt. Here are the 3 most common questions I get asked about resolving IRS tax problems. Question number 1, will I have to meet or speak with the IRS? And the answer is no. We will handle all communications and correspondence with the IRS. Question number 2, will I have to disclose all of my financial information? Depends. It depends on your case, such as the amount you owe and the type of resolution that you're seeking. Question number 3, what will happen if I don't do anything? Will they take my bank account wages? Well, this is definitely possible. So once again, the 5 major ways to settle your IRS debt are offer and compromise, installment agreement, partial pay installment agreement, currently not collectible, and penalty abatement. One of these solutions will help you get your life back. I know that was a lot to digest, and that's why working with an expert can help. While all 5 of these options are viable, they aren't equally likely, and it all depends on the financial situation. I'm sure you have some questions. Please feel free to type them into the chat box, and I'll be happy to chat about questions in our presentation today. So now you're also probably wondering, what's my next step? And your next step is to set up a free, no obligation, get relief now tax strategy call. So what I want you to do now is take a pic of the QR code that you will see shortly on the next screen to schedule now. So slots for the next 7 days are filling up quickly. We're here to get rid of your IRS problem. Now the next step is up to you. As we've seen over the course of this brief webinar, you have options to settle the tax debt. But the longer you wait, the more the penalties and interest will accrue, and the more likely it becomes that you'll experience levies, liens, or wage garnishments. Over time, the situation will become harder to resolve. Do you want to get rid of your tax problem and have peace of mind? Set up a consultation with us that meets your schedule. We'll meet with you to determine where you're at financially, what the IRS claims they need from you, and what we can do to help. In order to find out whether you qualify and determine what the settlement amount might be, you need a professional, free, no obligation get relief now tax strategy call. With our absolutely free, no obligation consultation, you can find out whether you qualify as a good candidate for the offering compromise program and what your other resolutions are. We have a limited number of appointments available and even fewer clients that we can accept at this time. So schedule yours today before our calendar fills up. Click right now on the QR code and schedule your Get Relief Now tax strategy call. If you happen to be a practitioner and would like to provide help for peace of mind for one or more of your clients, please feel free to give us a call directly or email us. Alternatively, if you prefer, you may share the QR code or link with your clients. Now, I'm sure you may have some questions. So if you have questions, please feel free to type it into the chat box, and I will stick around and see if there's any questions.
Once again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to enter them into the chat box, and I'll be happy to answer them for you live. Otherwise, if you prefer one-on-one, we can do just send us an email or call us at the phone number at your convenience. I see there are no questions, so I'd like to thank you for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you.